The sun was setting over the dusty ranch when Tom wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked across his empty land. 15 years he had been working this place alone. 15 long years of talking to his horses more than to people. At 42, his hands were rough from years of hard work, and his heart had grown tired of the silence that filled his small wooden house every night. Most men his age in town had families by now. They had wives who cooked dinner and children who ran around. The yard? Tom had chosen this lonely life, or maybe it had chosen him. He wasn't sure anymore. His parents had died when he was young, leaving him this ranch and not much else. He had thrown himself into work, building fences, caring for cattle, and fixing whatever broke. But lately the quiet had become too heavy to bear. The town nearby was struggling too. People were losing their jobs and some families were falling apart. Money was tight everywhere. Tom had enough to get by, but he watched his neighbors worry about paying their bills. It was during one of these hard times that he met someone who would change everything. Her name was Lily and she was 24 years old. She had long brown hair that she always kept tied back and sad green eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. Tom first saw her at the general store, standing quietly behind her older brother while he argued with the shopkeeper about credit. She was clearly pregnant, about 6 months along, and she looked tired and scared. Her brother Danny was a different story altogether. He was loud, always talking big about his plans and schemes. People in town knew he had a problem with gambling. Every week he would ride into town with hopes of winning big, and every week he would come back with empty pockets and new debts. His luck had finally run out completely. Tom learned the whole sad story from Mrs. Peterson, who ran the boarding house. Lily and Danny had lost their parents in a wagon accident 2 years ago. Since then, Danny had been responsible for taking care of his pregnant sister. But instead of working hard and saving money, he had been gambling away everything they had. Now, dangerous men were coming to collect what he owed them. One evening, Tom was in the saloon having a quiet drink when Danny approached him. The young man looked desperate, his eyes darting around the room like he was being hunted. He sat down across from Tom without being invited and leaned in close. "I got a business proposition for you," Danny said, his voice shaking slightly. "I know you're a good man, Tom, honest and hardworking. You got that big ranch and nobody to share it with?" Tom raised an eyebrow. He had a feeling this conversation was going somewhere he didn't want to go. "What kind of proposition?" Danny took a deep breath. "My sister Lily needs help. She's got a baby coming and I can't take care of her anymore. I got debts, bad ones. Men are coming for me and they don't care about her condition." Tom's stomach turned. He could see where this was heading. "What exactly are you asking me?" "Marry her," Danny said quickly. "Take care of her and the baby. I'll sign over her hand to you legal-like. You get a wife, she gets protection, and I get enough money to pay off my debts and start fresh somewhere else." The proposal hit Tom like a punch to the gut. He stared at Danny, trying to process what he had just heard. "You want to sell your sister?" "It's not selling," Danny said defensively. "It's arranging a marriage. Happens all the time. She needs someone to take care of her, and you need a family. Everybody wins." Tom stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the wooden floor. "That's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. She's your sister, not a piece of property." But as he walked away, Tom couldn't stop thinking about Lily. He had seen her around town, always quiet, always looking worried. She worked at the diner sometimes, trying to earn a few coins. Her dresses were getting tight as her belly grew, and she had that look of someone who was running out of options. 3 days later, Tom saw her crying behind the church. She was sitting on an old wooden crate, her hands covering her face. When she looked up and saw him, she quickly wiped her tears and tried to smile. "Sorry, Mr. Tom. I didn't mean to bother anyone." "You're not bothering me," he said gently. "Are you all right?" She laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "My brother told me about his talk with you. I'm sorry he put you in that position. I had no idea he was going to ask you such a thing." Tom sat down on another crate nearby. "What do you want to do about your situation?" Lily looked down at her hands. "I don't have many choices. Danny owes money to some very bad people. If he doesn't pay them soon, they'll hurt him. Maybe hurt. Me too. I can't work much longer in my condition, and after the baby comes, I'll need help. What about the baby's father? Her face grew sad. He was a traveling merchant. Promised to come back and marry me, but that was 7 months ago. I don't think he's coming back. Tom felt a pain in his chest. This young woman was facing motherhood alone, with a brother who saw her as a way to solve his problems. He had grown up without parents and knew what it felt like to be alone in the world. If you married me, he said carefully, it would be, in name only. You'd have your own room, your own space. I wouldn't expect anything from you except maybe some help around the house when you're able. The baby would be safe, and you'd never have to worry about money or food. Lily looked at him with surprise. You would do that? Even though you barely know me? I know enough, Tom said. I know you're kind to everyone you meet. I know you work hard, even when you're tired. I know you're going to be a good mother. And I know you deserve better than what life has given you so far. She was quiet for a long moment. Danny says he needs $500 to pay off his debts and leave. Tom nodded. It was a lot of money, but he had savings from years of living simply. I can manage that. Why would you help us? She asked. You don't owe us anything. Tom looked out at the setting sun. Maybe I'm tired of being alone. Maybe I think we could help each other. You need security, and I need someone to make that big empty house feel like a home. Lily stood up slowly, her hand resting on her belly. If I agree to this, I want you to know that I'm grateful, but I won't be treated like property. I may not have much choice in this situation, but I still have my dignity. I wouldn't expect anything less, Tom said. We'll be partners in this, not owner and possession. They shook hands there behind the church, sealing a deal that would change both their lives forever. Neither of them could have imagined then how this desperate arrangement would grow into something neither had dared to hope for. The next week, they had a simple ceremony at the courthouse. Lily wore a borrowed dress that was too big for her, and Tom wore his best shirt. There were no flowers, no celebration, just two people making a practical decision to face an uncertain future together as they walked back to the ranch that would now be their home. Tom wondered if he had made the right choice. Lily walked beside him quietly, probably wondering the same thing. Behind them, Danny rode out of town with his debt money, leaving his sister to start a new life with a man who was still essentially a stranger, but sometimes the most unexpected arrangements can lead to the most beautiful outcomes. And sometimes what starts as a business deal can become the foundation for something real and lasting. The first morning at the ranch was awkward beyond anything Tom had ever experienced. He woke up at dawn as usual, but instead of the familiar silence, he could hear someone moving around in the kitchen. For 15 years he had been the only person in this house. Now there was a woman here, and he had no idea how to act. Lily was standing at the stove when he walked into the kitchen, her back turned to him. She had found his coffee pot and was trying to figure out how to work it. Her long brown hair was braided down her back, and she wore a simple blue dress that showed her growing belly. She looked small and out of place in his rough masculine space. "Good morning," he said quietly, not wanting to startle her. She turned around quickly, her green eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind. I wanted to make breakfast, but I can't figure out your coffee pot." Tom felt heat rise in his cheeks. That old thing is tricky. "Here, let me show you." He moved toward the stove, and she stepped aside to give him room. Their hands brushed briefly when he took the pot from her, and both of them pulled away as if they had been burned. "You don't need to cook for me," he said, focusing on the coffee to avoid looking at her. "I usually just have some bread and whatever's left from dinner. I want to help," Lily said firmly. "I can't just sit around doing nothing. It doesn't feel right." Tom glanced at her belly. "You should be resting. The baby needs you to take care of yourself." "The baby needs me to stay useful," she replied. "If I can't contribute somehow, then I'm just a burden." Her words stung because Tom realized she was right to worry. This arrangement was strange for both of them. He had given her brother money and promised to take care of her, but what did that really mean? How were they supposed to live together when they barely knew each other? "You're not a burden," he said, finally looking at her. "We made a deal, and I intend to keep my word. But I also don't want you to feel like you have to earn your place here." Lily studied his face, trying to read his intentions. "Then what am I supposed to do all day while you work?" Tom hadn't thought about that. He spent most of his time outside with the cattle or fixing things around the ranch. He had assumed she would want to rest, but clearly she was not the type of person who could sit still. "Whatever you want," he said. "Read books, so walk around the property. This is your home now, too." The word home hung in the air between them. Neither of them felt like this was truly home yet. It was more like they were two strangers sharing a space, trying to figure out how to coexist. After a breakfast of eggs and toast that they ate in uncomfortable silence, Tom headed outside to start his daily work. He was relieved to escape the tension in the house. Out here with his horses and cattle, he knew what he was doing. Inside with Lily, he felt like he was walking on thin ice, but when he came back for lunch, he found that Lily had been busy. She had cleaned the kitchen until it sparkled, organized his scattered papers into neat piles, and even swept the front porch. The house looked better than it had in years. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, looking around in amazement. "I told you I wanted to help," she replied. "Besides, it gave me something to do." Over the next few days, they developed a routine. Tom would wake up early and tend to the animals while Lily made breakfast. They would eat together, making small talk about the weather or the ranch work. Then Tom would go outside for the day, while Lily found ways to improve the house. She was incredibly skilled at making his rough bachelor home feel more comfortable. She sewed curtains for the windows, arranged wildflowers in jars, and somehow made the simple furniture look inviting. Tom found himself looking forward to coming inside each evening to see what she had accomplished. But the evenings were the hardest part. They would sit in the main room after dinner, and the silence would stretch between them. Tom would read his farming journals while Lily worked on baby clothes she was sewing. Sometimes he would catch her looking at him, and she would quickly look away. Sometimes she would catch him doing the same thing. One evening, about 2 weeks after she had arrived, Lily was struggling to reach something on a high shelf. Tom watched her stretch upward, her belly making it difficult to balance. Without thinking, he stood up and walked over to help. "Here, let me get that," he said, reaching easily for the item she wanted. As he handed it to her, their fingers touched. Again, this time, neither of them pulled away immediately. They stood there for a moment, very close to each other, and Tom caught the scent of the soap she used. It was feminine and sweet, so different from the rough smells of leather and hay that usually filled his world. "Thank you," Lily said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom realized he was staring at her lips and forced himself to step back. "You should ask me to reach things for you. I don't want you to fall." "I'm not helpless," she said, but there was no anger in her voice. "I've been taking care of myself for a long time." "I know you have," Tom replied, "but you don't have to anymore. That's why I'm here." Something shifted in her expression. "Is that what this is about for you?" "Taking care of someone who needs help?" Tom considered her question carefully. "Partly, but it's more than that. I've been alone for so long that I forgot what it felt like to have someone else in the house. Even when we're not talking, I can hear you moving around, and it makes the place feel alive." Lily smiled, and it was the first genuine smile he had seen from her. "I know what you mean. I was scared of being alone after the baby comes. At least here, I know someone will be around." They were starting to understand each other. This wasn't about romance or love. It was about two lonely people who had found a way to make each other's lives a little less empty. As the weeks passed, their conversations became easier. Tom learned that Lily had always wanted to be a teacher. She was smart and loved books, but her family's circumstances had made education a luxury they couldn't afford. She learned that Tom had inherited the ranch from his parents and had been working it alone since he was barely 25. "Don't you ever get lonely out here?" she asked one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. I used to think I preferred it, Tom admitted. People in town can be complicated. Animals are more straightforward. But having you here has made me realize what I was missing. What were you missing? Conversation? Someone to share the day with. Someone who cares if I come home safe each night. Lily looked at him with surprise. You think I care about that? Don't. You? She was quiet for a moment. Yes, I do. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes. When you're late coming in, I find myself watching the road. It was a small admission, but it felt significant. They were becoming invested in each other's well-being, not just out of obligation, but out of genuine concern. The baby was due in about 3 months, and both of them were starting to think about what that would mean. Tom had never been around infants, and Lily was nervous about being a first-time mother. But somehow, facing those challenges together felt less frightening than facing them alone. They were building something between them, brick by brick, day by day. It wasn't the passionate romance that people wrote about in books, but it was real and solid and based on mutual respect. And maybe, Tom thought as he watched Lily reading by lamplight, that was exactly what both of them needed. The winter storm hit without warning on a cold February night. Tom woke up to the sound of wind howling around the house and snow pelting against the windows. He had seen plenty of storms in his years on the ranch, but this one felt different. The air was thick with danger, and something in his gut told him this was going to be a long night. Lily had been restless all day. She was now 9 months pregnant, and the baby could come at any time. She had been pacing around the house, holding her lower back and wincing occasionally. Tom had suggested she rest, but she insisted she felt better moving around. I can't. Get comfortable, she had said after dinner. Nothing feels right. Tom had been watching her carefully. Living on a ranch, he had helped deliver calves and foals, and he recognized the signs. The way she kept stopping to breathe deeply, the way her hand would press against her belly, the restless energy that seemed to consume her, he had a feeling. This baby was coming soon. Got around midnight, he heard her call out from her room. Her voice was tight with pain, and it sent him jumping out of bed. He rushed to her door and knocked gently. Lily, are you all right? Tom, I think it's time, she said, her voice shaking. He opened the door to find her sitting on the edge of her bed, gripping the blanket with white knuckles. Her face was pale and sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cold night. How long have you been having pains? He asked, trying to keep his voice calm. They started this afternoon, but they're getting stronger now. And closer together? She looked up at him with frightened eyes. Tom, I'm scared. He sat down beside her, careful not to get too close but wanting to offer comfort. It's going to be okay. We'll get through this together. But the storm, she said, looking toward the window where snow was still falling heavily. We can't get to town. There's no doctor, no midwife. Tom's heart was pounding, but he knew he had to stay calm for her sake. I've delivered plenty of animals. I know it's not the same, but I understand the basics. We can do this. Another pain hit her, and she doubled over, gripping his arm. The strength of her grip surprised him. When it passed, she looked at him with tears in her eyes. I don't want to do this alone, she whispered. You're not alone, Tom said firmly. I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere. For the next several hours, Tom stayed by her side. He helped her walk around the room when she needed to move, rubbed her back when the pains got bad, and held her hand when she needed something to squeeze. He had never seen anyone in so much pain, and it scared him more than he wanted to admit. Tell me about the ranch, Lily said during a brief break between contractions. Tell me about when you were young. Tom understood that she needed distraction. He told her about learning to ride horses with his father, about the time he got lost in the woods as a boy, about the first calf he had delivered all by himself. His voice seemed to calm her, giving her something to focus on besides the pain. As the night wore on, Tom realized that this experience was changing him. Watching Lily go through something so difficult, seeing her strength and courage in the face of fear, made him respect her in a way he never had before. She wasn't just the pregnant woman he had agreed to help. She was incredible. "I can't do this," she said at one point, exhaustion clear in her voice. "I'm too tired." "Yes, you can," Tom said, looking directly into her eyes. "You're the strongest person I know. This baby is lucky to have you as a mother?" Something in his voice must have convinced her, because she nodded and prepared for the next contraction with renewed determination. Just before dawn, everything changed quickly. Tom realized the baby was coming whether they were ready or not. Drawing on everything he knew about delivering animals, he did his best to help Lily through the final moments. His hands were shaking and he was probably more scared than she was, but he stayed focused on what needed to be done. And then, suddenly, there was a cry. A loud, healthy cry that filled the room and announced the arrival of a new life. "It's a girl," Tom said, his voice full of wonder. The baby was small and red and perfect, and she was crying with impressive strength. Lily was crying too, but these were tears of joy and relief. "Is she okay? Is she healthy?" Tom wrapped the baby in a clean blanket and carefully placed her in Lily's arms. "She's perfect, absolutely perfect." Watching Lily hold her daughter for the first time was one of the most beautiful things Tom had ever seen. All the pain and fear of the long night melted away as she looked down at the tiny face peeking out from the blanket. "Hello, little one," Lily whispered. "I'm your mama?" The baby seemed to recognize her mother's voice and stopped crying. She opened her eyes and looked up at Lily with that unfocused stare that newborns have. "What will you name her?" Tom asked swiftly. Lily looked up at him, and he saw something in her expression that hadn't been there before. It was gratitude, but it was deeper than that. It was the look of someone who had just shared the most important moment of her life with another person. "Hope," she said. "Her name is Hope." Tom felt something tight in his chest. "That's a beautiful name." "She's going to need a father figure," Lily said quietly. "Someone to teach her about the world and keep her safe." Tom looked down at the baby in Lily's arms. Hope had the tiniest fingers he had ever seen, and her little hand was wrapped around one of Lily's fingers. Something shifted inside him, something he hadn't expected. "I'd be honored to be that person," he said. "If you'll let me." Over the next few days, as the storm cleared and life settled into a new routine, Tom discovered that having a baby in the house changed everything. He found himself hurrying through his morning chores so he could come inside and check on both mother and daughter. He built a cradle with his own hands, working late into the night to make sure it was perfect. The sound of Hope's cries didn't annoy him the way he thought they would. Instead, they made him feel needed and important. When Lily was exhausted from feeding the baby, Tom would walk around the house holding Hope, singing old songs his mother had sung to him. "You're good at this," Lily said one evening, watching him rock the baby to sleep. "I never thought I would be," Tom admitted. "I've never been around babies before." "She knows you care about her," Lily said. "Babies can tell these things." Tom looked down at Hope's sleeping face. She was so small and trusting, completely dependent on the adults around her. The protective feeling that washed over him was overwhelming. "I would do anything to keep her safe," he said. "To keep both of you safe." "I know you would," Lily said. "That's why I'm not scared anymore." As winter slowly gave way to spring, Tom realized that his life had been completely transformed. The lonely cowboy who had made a practical arrangement with a desperate woman had become a father and protector. The house that had once been silent now filled with baby sounds and gentle conversations. And the woman who had started as a stranger was becoming someone he couldn't imagine living without. Spring arrived at the ranch with a warmth that seemed to touch more than just the weather. Baby Hope was now 3 months old, and life had settled into a rhythm that felt natural and right. Tom would wake up each morning to the sound of Hope babbling in her cradle, and instead of feeling disturbed by the noise, he found himself smiling before he even opened his eyes. The change in their daily routine was remarkable. Tom still did his ranch work, but now he planned his day around Hope's feeding times. He would come inside when Lily needed help, holding the baby while she prepared meals or tended to household tasks. Without even discussing it, they had become a team. She's getting so big, Lily said one morning as she watched Tom feeding Hope with a bottle. The baby's eyes were fixed on his face, and she made little happy sounds as she drank. She's going to be tall like her mother, Tom replied, gently stroking Hope's soft hair. And probably twice as stubborn. Lily laughed, and the sound filled the kitchen with joy. I was not stubborn when I arrived here. I was practical. You refused to let me carry your bag from the wagon, Tom reminded her with a grin. You insisted on washing dishes even though you could barely reach the sink over your belly. If that's not stubborn, I don't know what is. Okay, maybe a little stubborn, Lily admitted, watching as Hope finished her bottle and started to fall. Asleep in Tom's arms, these playful conversations had become normal between them. The awkward politeness of their early days had been replaced by genuine friendship and easy comfort. Tom found himself looking forward to their talks, and Lily had started sharing her thoughts and dreams with him in a way she never had with anyone else. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching Hope play with a wooden toy Tom had carved for her, Lily brought up something that had been on her mind. Tom, do you ever regret the arrangement we made? She asked quietly. He looked at her with surprise. Regret it? Why would I regret it? Because your life was simple before. You could do whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. Now you have a woman and a baby to worry about? That's a lot of responsibility for someone who chose to live alone. Tom was quiet for a moment, thinking about her question. My life was simple, he said finally. But simple isn't the same as good. I thought I was happy living alone, but I was just existing. Now I feel like I'm actually living. What's the difference? Lily asked. Before I worked because I had to. Now I work because I want to provide for you and Hope. Before I came home to an empty house. Now I come home to a family. Before, if something happened to me, nobody would notice for days. Now I matter to someone. Lily felt her heart flutter at his words. You matter to us more than you know? Their eyes met, and something passed between them that hadn't been there before. It was deeper than friendship, but not quite romance. It was the recognition that they had become important to each other in ways that went beyond their original agreement. A few days later, Tom was in the barn fixing a broken harness when he heard Hope crying from the house. The crying went on longer than usual, and he found himself stopping his work to listen. When it didn't stop, he walked toward the house to see if Lily needed help. He found her in the kitchen, holding Hope and looking frustrated. The baby was red-faced and screaming, and nothing Lily did seem to help. I don't know what's wrong with her, Lily said, close to tears herself. She's been fed, she's been changed, but she won't stop crying. Tom washed his hands and gently took Hope from her mother's arms. Sometimes babies just need to cry, he said softly, but let's try walking around. He began pacing slowly around the kitchen, bouncing Hope gently and humming a tune his mother used to sing. Gradually, the baby's cries became softer, and finally, she settled against his chest with a small sigh. How did you do that? Lily asked, amazed. I don't know, Tom admitted. Maybe she just wanted a change of scenery. But Lily was watching his face as he held Hope, and she saw something there that made her heart skip. It was love, pure and simple. Tom loved this baby as if she were his own daughter, and he loved being the person who could comfort her. Tom, she said softly. He looked up at her, and for a moment they stood there in the kitchen, with Hope sleeping peacefully between them. The afternoon light was streaming through the windows, and the house felt warm and safe and full of love. Thank you, Lily said, for everything. For taking us in, for taking care of us, for being so good to Hope. You don't need to thank me, Tom replied. This is my family now. You're my family. The word family hung in the air between them, and both of them realized that somewhere along the way, their practical arrangement had become something much more meaningful. That night, after Hope was asleep and they were sitting by the fire, Tom found the courage to say what had been on his mind for weeks. Lily, I need to tell you something. She looked up from her sewing, seeing something serious in his expression. What is it? When your brother first came to me with his proposition, I thought I was doing it for practical reasons. I needed someone to help with the house, and you needed security. But it's not practical anymore. What do you mean? Tom took a deep breath. I mean that I care about you. Not just as someone I'm helping, but as a person who has become important to me. And I care about Hope like she's my own daughter. This isn't just an arrangement anymore. At least not for me. Lily set down her sewing and looked at him carefully. What are you saying? I'm saying that I think I'm falling in love with you, Tom said, his voice barely above a whisper. And I don't know if that's allowed, given how we started? Lily felt tears spring to her eyes. Tom, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I know this is complicated. I know we agreed that this was just a practical arrangement. But I can't pretend anymore that my feelings are practical. Lily stood up and walked over to where he was sitting. She knelt down beside his chair and took his hands in hers. You wonderful, foolish man, she said softly. Don't you know that I've been falling in love with you too? Tom's eyes widened. You have? How could I not? You've been so kind to me, so patient, so good to Hope. You've given us a home and a family and safety. But more than that, you've given us love. Real, honest love. Tom reached up and gently touched her face. You sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back to just being practical. I don't want to go back, Lily said. I want to move forward, with you. He leaned down and kissed her then, gently and carefully, as if she were made of something precious that might break. It was their first real kiss, and it felt like a promise of all the kisses to come. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling through their tears. So what happens now? Lily asked. Now we stop pretending this is just an arrangement, Tom said. Now we admit that we're a real family built on real love. And Hope? Hope will grow up knowing that love can come from the most unexpected places. Tom said, and that sometimes the best families are the ones that choose each other. As they sat together by the fire, with their daughter sleeping peacefully in the next room, both Tom and Lily marveled at how far they had come, what had started, as a desperate transaction had become the foundation for the kind of love that most people only dreamed of finding. 2 years had passed since that snowy night when Hope came into the world, and the ranch had transformed into something Tom never could have imagined. The house that once echoed with loneliness now buzzed with the sounds of a happy family. Hope was walking now, her chubby legs carrying her around the yard as she chased chickens and picked wildflowers for her mother. Tom stood on the porch one sunny morning, watching his daughter toddle toward the barn. His daughter, the thought still amazed him sometimes. Hope had never known any other father, and to her, Tom was simply Daddy. She would run to him when she scraped her knee, fall asleep in his arms after dinner, and babble excitedly about everything she discovered during her daily adventures. She's getting into everything now, Lily said, joining him on the porch. She was carrying a basket of freshly picked vegetables from the garden they had planted together. This morning I found her trying to feed grass to the cat, Tom laughed. She's curious about the world. That's a good thing. Easy for you to say? You don't have to chase her around all day, Lily teased. But her eyes were full of love as she watched Hope explore. Their relationship had deepened in ways that surprised both of them. After that night by the fire when they had admitted their feelings, they had decided to have a real wedding. Not the rushed courthouse ceremony they had done out of necessity, but a proper celebration where they could make vows that meant something. The whole town had come to their wedding. 6 months later, Mrs. Peterson had cried during the ceremony, telling everyone who would listen how she had prayed for Tom to find happiness. Even the pastor had commented on how different Tom looked from the quiet, lonely man who used to sit in the back pew by himself. You two were meant to be together, he had said during the reception. Sometimes God works in mysterious ways to bring people where they need to be. Now, as they stood watching Hope play, Tom reflected on how true those words had been. He had thought he was rescuing Lily from a desperate situation, but she had rescued him too. She had brought light and laughter into his world, and had shown him what it meant to be part of a real family. I have something to tell you, Lily said, interrupting his thoughts. Something in her tone made him look at her more carefully. She was smiling, but there was a nervous energy about her that he recognized. What is it? We're going to have another baby, she said softly. Tom felt his heart skip a beat. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've been to see Dr. Williams in town. He says everything looks good, and the baby should arrive sometime in the fall. Tom swept her into his arms, spinning her around on the porch. That's wonderful news. Hope is going to be a big sister. Are you happy about it? Lily asked when he set her down. Happy? I'm thrilled, Tom said, kissing her forehead. Our family is growing. The months that followed were filled with preparation and excitement. Tom expanded Hope's room and built a second cradle. Lily spent her evenings sewing tiny clothes and dreaming about what the new baby would be like. Hope, though she didn't fully understand what was happening, seemed to sense that something special was coming. Baby, she would say, patting Lily's growing belly. My baby. Yes, sweetheart, Lily would say. Your little brother or sister? The second birth was easier than the first. This time, Dr. Williams was able to make it to the ranch, and Tom wasn't the only one responsible for helping. But he still stayed right by Lily's side, holding her hand and encouraging her through the difficult moments. When their son was born, Tom felt the same overwhelming rush of love and protectiveness that he had experienced with Hope. The baby was perfect, with Tom's dark hair and Lily's green eyes. What should we name him? Lily asked, exhausted but happy. What do you think of Matthew? Tom suggested. It means gift from God. Matthew? Lily repeated, smiling at the baby in her arms. Yes, that's perfect. Hope was fascinated by her new brother. She would sit beside his cradle for hours, talking to him in her toddler language and bringing him toys. Tom loved watching her gentle interactions with the baby. She was going to be a wonderful big sister one evening as autumn painted the trees. In brilliant colors, Tom was sitting on the porch with Matthew sleeping in his arms while Lily helped Hope with a puzzle inside. The peaceful scene was interrupted by the sound of a horse approaching. Tom looked up to see a familiar figure riding toward the house. It was Danny, Lily's brother, looking older and more weathered than when he had left town 3 years ago. Tom's first instinct was to protect his family. Danny had caused so much pain and upheaval, and Tom wasn't sure he wanted the man anywhere near his wife and children. Tom, Danny said, dismounting from his horse. I know you probably don't want to see me. That's right, I don't, Tom replied, his voice cold. You sold your sister like she was a piece of livestock? Danny's face flushed with shame. I know what I did was wrong. I've regretted it every day since I left. But I was desperate, and I thought I was out of options. You were gambling away your family's future, Tom said. There's no excuse for that. You're right, Danny said quietly. I was selfish and weak. But I've changed, Tom. I've been working honest jobs, staying away from gambling. I've come back to make amends. Lily appeared in the doorway, having heard the voices. When she saw her brother, her face went through a range of emotions, shock, anger, and then something softer. Danny, she said simply. Lily, I'm so sorry, Danny said, his voice breaking. I'm sorry for what I did to you. I'm sorry for leaving you when you needed me most. I'm sorry for being such a terrible brother. Tom watched carefully as Lily walked slowly down the porch steps. She had every right to be angry, to send Danny away and never speak to him again. But Lily had always been more forgiving than he was. You hurt me, she said, stopping a few feet away from Danny. You betrayed me when I needed you most. I know, Danny said, tears streaming down his face. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I had to come back and try to make things right. Lily looked back at Tom, who was still holding Matthew. She saw Hope peeking around the doorframe, curious about the visitor. This was her family now, the people who had chosen to love her and stay with her through everything. I forgive you, she said finally. But things can never go back to the way they were. Tom is my husband now, and these are my children. This is my home, Danny nodded, understanding. I can see that. And I can see that you're happy. That's all I ever wanted for you, even though I went about it all wrong. You can visit, Lily said. You can be part of our lives if you want. But you need to understand that Tom and the children come first. They're my family now. Tom felt a surge of pride and love for his wife. She had found a way to be forgiving, without being naive, to show mercy without forgetting the past. Over the following months, Danny became a regular visitor to the ranch. He helped with the harvest, played with Hope, and slowly earned back some measure of trust. He was different from the desperate, selfish man who had left town years ago. Work and regret had matured him into someone who understood the value of family. "Thank you," Danny said to Tom one day as they worked together mending fences, "for taking care of her, for giving her the life she deserved." "I didn't do her any favors," Tom replied. "She saved me just as much as I saved her." As winter approached, again Tom reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them all to this point. Hope was now a bright, curious 3-year-old who filled their days with laughter. Matthew was growing strong and healthy, already showing signs of his mother's gentle nature. And Lily had become not just his wife, but his partner in every sense of the word. They had started with a desperate transaction between strangers, but they had built something beautiful and lasting. They had chosen each other, and they continued to choose each other every day. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if we hadn't met?" Lily asked one evening as they sat by the fire. "I try not to," Tom said, pulling her closer. "I can't imagine a life without you and the children." "Neither can I," Lily said. "We're exactly where we're supposed to be." Outside, snow was beginning to fall, just like it had on the night Hope was born. But this time there was no fear or uncertainty. There was only the quiet contentment of a family that had found its way home.